Hello, everyone. I'm pretty excited to welcome you tonight to OsteoBoston. We have a fantastic lineup tonight, a wonderful speaker from Phoenix Hipwear. And I want to just thank our live audience of participants, members of OsteoBoston who are here tonight and live. And we'll be continuing a program after we hang up with our speaker. And then for those of you that are on our YouTube audience, I'm excited for you as well listening. And please, if you like it, give us a thumbs up or subscribe or go ahead and join Osteo Boston and shoot me an email. All that information will be in the description. For now, I want to ask you a question. I want to ask you if you're enjoying an active lifestyle. Um, Or have you shied away from very active activities of your own? Or are you caring for someone who might be at a high risk for falling and fractures, and those people might need some help? When more concerns for our own injury increase, um, it might be wise to use hip protectors. These devices are worn over the hips in underwear that's designed to hold them in place to lessen the risk of breaking hips should the wearer have a fall. So, are you the right candidate for this? Is the device intended for your use or for someone with greater physical vulnerability? Are these pads effective at minimizing an injury if a fall were to take place? I think we're going to learn the answers to all those questions tonight. Natasha
Absolutely.
Williams, yes. Natasha Williams will be introducing her latest version of the hip protector, which is used to prevent hip fracture. She's sharing some statistics and she's going to compare her former model with her new model because I believe you've had two versions of this. I and anyway, she is the founder and CEO of this company, and she launched in 2011 a hip protector with a US sports company to develop a flexible shield. And it was a relatively new idea, yet it became a highly regarded product in New Zealand and the United States as well, and several other countries too, I've heard. Gaining
Mhm.
insight from customers, um, it was determined there was a place for an improved product. And that's what we're going to be talking about tonight to bring hip protection to a new level. Um, so I'm pretty excited to bring Natasha Williams on tonight. And I want to thank you, Natasha, for being our guest.
Oh,
And
thanks for having me.
absolutely. So thank you for coming on and tell us all about you.
Okay, so let me just, the host is, okay. You can all hear me, you can all see me. Hi. Okay, so yeah, look, it is wonderful to be here with you today. I am really excited about sharing Phoenix with you. As Shelley said, I have been doing this for quite some time now, and there's actually been a few iterations along the way. And my focus has always been um, how do we use the latest technologies to provide the best protection, but that's really balanced with that works really, really well, but is also able to be worn. So that's really where we've got to today with Phoenix. So hip protection works. Most people don't want to wear it. That's kind of the short answer. In the past, it's always been very bulky, usually foam based, and so there's limitations. So that's really, if anyone's heard of hip protection, they possibly know the old style, where people said, "Yeah, thanks very much. I'm good with that. I'm not wearing that." So if that's been you, then or you know someone who said that, then hopefully you'll be really excited about what we've got. Um, and so, what I wanted to do tonight is just run through a bit of a presentation, give you a little bit of background about Phoenix and about the testing and about what it looks like and how it performs. And then, obviously, I'm here to answer any questions. So just to start, yeah, look, this active, what I talk about, Phoenix Hipwear Active, the active people who have got osteoporosis, but they're not frail and old, that's a really new development for us. I've been in the hip protection space for a decade, over a decade, quite some time. And it really has been about supporting the more frail needs, and that's been in senior living. And so we really started, which back then was very limited with what the technology was, and I was always looking for what was better. But really, it was about incorporating hip protection into those people who had really high care needs. So you might know somebody, it might be a family member who's living in senior living. That's where we used to only sit. We still sit in that space, but we're really excited about the new space that we've been able to move into. In fact, it's really been a really exciting process for us as we've kind of developed these joint pathways for protection. In fact, just recently we launched with a really wonderful senior living group. Same product, slightly different garment than what I'm going to talk about with you, more of an underwear. What I'm going to talk about with you is a more sports focused garment, but we also have an underwear garment that works for senior living. So it works with incontinence, really comfortable underwear. And we recently launched with a senior living group and for their memory care. And they're actually giving it, which is fantastic, giving it as a welcome gift to their memory care residents when they move in, because they want to encourage safe mobility, and really do something more than just say, hey, we're doing everything we can to keep your loved one safe. They're actually out there doing it. So this program's now been going for 6 months, and we have had 0 hip fractures with any residents wearing our Phoenix hipwear, which is super exciting. We do not say that we are going to prevent 100% of hip fractures. It's certainly not something we talk about. We reduce the risk significantly, but to have by this point, 6 months in, with the most frail, most falls risk, these residents are falling regularly and they're falling at a high rate. To have 0 fractures amongst those residents who are wearing our hip protectors is such a wonderful outcome. So we're super, super excited about that. But where I want to talk tonight and where I've been really inspired is there has been this whole cohort of people who are not old and frail, but they are active, they're living vibrant lives, they're living full lives, they're traveling, they're doing all sorts of things, but they've got a diagnosis of osteopenia, osteoporosis. They're basically concerned about their bone health. Now, these are not just for women. However, we recognize that women are overrepresented in the osteoporosis statistics and the fracture statistics. I'm sure you know half of a woman over the age of 50 will fracture a bone due to osteoporosis in their lifetime. So our first sports-specific product is for women, but the shields can be worn by men. We have men's underwear, but we've really focused on these active women who are hiking, biking, playing pickleball. They're working out, they're walking the dog. So basically any activity that increases the risk of a fall. And so we've really looked at the shield, which I'm going to talk about, and the garment. So what we talk about here, so these are actually pictures of the garment. On an actual woman, everything we have on here is unedited. All our photos we have on our website, they're just what they look like when they're worn. So these are real women wearing them. Now, when we talk about so slim, you'll forget you're wearing them, so strong, you'll remember why. That's really the underlying focus of why we did this development for Phoenix Hipwear Active. It is for people who are not wanting necessarily everybody else to know. They're just wanting to put on their sports wear and then go out and do their activities. Now, just as a note, we also do have underwear for women. So if you're just looking for everyday incorporation into everyday life, there are underwear styles. The shield works across them all. But the really exciting active sport shorts are just super comfortable athletic type shorts that can be worn under anything or even over. We have them over leggings. So I want to show you, the first thing I want to do, I've got a few videos throughout this, just to sometimes other people can say things better than I can. This is the video I want to show you is one of my favorite Phoenix Hipwear wearers, and I say she's one of my favorite. It's more that she's one of my long term. So she hikes and she bikes all over the world. She's hiked up Nepal. She's just got back from Kosovo. She's everywhere. First met her around 2015 when she got a diagnosis with osteoporosis, and she actually started wearing our really old, we didn't have anything active. It was the old style, big foam shields, really senior focus, but she wore it because she was so determined that she was going to keep living this amazing life she had. And she didn't want a hip fracture to stop her. So she kept in touch and she would send me photos of adventures. And then one day in about 2021, she emailed me with a really upsetting story. And there's a reason I'm telling you the upsetting part of the story. She had been traveling, she was hiking, and everything was good. And then she returned from a hike and she was meeting friends in town. And so she got changed and she had been wearing her hip protection all day, but decided, look, she's just going into town. She's just going out to dinner, just meeting friends. Don't need my hip protection on. And unfortunately, she stepped off a curb and she slipped and she broke her hip. Now, the reason I tell you that story, she's fine. She recovered. She did an amazing work in her recovery, and she's just sent me photos and this video, and she's out everywhere. So she's amazing. But the reason I tell you is because she is fragile. I know her hips can break, and I know that Phoenix gives her that added protection so that she can keep doing the things she loves. So this is somebody who, without hip protectors, is fragile. We know it, she's broken before. So I'm going to play this video, so hopefully you can all see this and hear this.
Whenever I go hiking, I wear the Phoenix hip protection. Back in the spring, I tripped and had a hard fall on some rocks, and at that time, I landed hard on my hip and also on my face, breaking my nose. I was able to get up and I was able to walk 5 miles to my car, which I really don't think I would have been able to do if I wasn't wearing the hip protection. I won't hike without them, and I think that they give that extra level of confidence that should we trip and fall, we can get up and continue walking.
Okay, I'll move that down to there. So I've got a few videos of different customers who have just given me feedback. We haven't told them what to say. It's just been about giving us feedback. So that's Christine, and we really appreciate. I'm inspired by her all the time with the things she does. Now I'm going to quickly run through these statistics because I know you know them and they're devastating. But there's just a couple of things I want to just kind of clarify. So we know hip fractures are continuing to increase in number. The forecast for 2025 was going to be around about 500,000. This is in the US. High cost. Now, obviously, some of this cost is borne by insurance companies and some by Medicare, Medicaid, various payers. However, there are still financial costs to the person who has the hip fracture. Now, around a quarter of those who experience a hip fracture die in the year following. We know that. However, this is more of the elderly end of the market. So with the elderly end of the population that are fracturing. And the quarter that move from hospital straight to care and can never return to their own home. Also, very much at the more frail, more elderly end. But if we think about the mobility concerns that happen after a fracture for those who still recover, there is an issue often with mobility after a fracture. 6 months after a hip fracture, around about 15% of those can walk across a room unaided. Now, obviously, that's our more active, our more younger group of people who we don't want mobility issues. So just a note, though, that's really important is the strength and fitness you go into a hip, let's hope you don't have a hip fracture, but the strength and fitness going into a hip fracture or any injury will impact on your ability to recover. We know that. So just a plug for exercise and a plug for getting strong and a plug for balance and falls prevention. If you aren't doing all of those things, now is the time to do that. That is the place to start because it can make a huge difference if you've done all that work before any injury or fall happens. So we know fractures are not a great thing. I want to talk a little bit though about issues that aren't really nicely encapsulated in a statistic. And I'm sure that this is something that you have either heard, either felt yourself, or people you know. Often after diagnosis of osteoporosis is fear. And so that fear can be for a number of reasons. Suddenly, when you go about your activities, you were fine, but now you've got this fear of falling, because osteoporosis on its own doesn't really do anything as such until something happens. So you've now got a fear of falling. Now it's a fear of activities. Well, hang on. What if I go out and do that and I have a fall? Am I still safe doing that activity? I also hear from people that they had all these plans. So we get to the stage in our life. I'm just about to turn 55. But as we get to the stage, suddenly it's like, I got plans. I'm going to travel. I'm going to do this. I'm going to hike with my friends on the weekend. And suddenly you feel like, is at the end of that? There's also a really, the label of osteoporosis often feels like you've putting a big sign over your head that says, hey, I'm old. And we don't want that. We worked really hard to not get old or or try to hold off being old. So there's that fear. Am I now old? Because we have this idea of the little old lady hunched over who's got osteoporosis, and that's kind of from our grandparents' days.
Yeah.
And then there's a fear of overwhelm, a real fear of what do I do now? And now I've got to think about medications. Now I've got to think about my nutrition. Now I've got to eat more calcium, and I don't like calcium. And how do I do that in another way? And well, now I've got to get strong, but I've never gone to the gym, and it's very overwhelming. And then sometimes what I get from people, I talk to customers all the time, obviously, is a little bit of anger. Sometimes it's anger over, oh gosh, I should have been doing more. Sometimes it's anger over, why didn't I know this earlier? Anyone I meet in their 50s, I always say to them, get a DEXA scan, get a baseline, know where you're starting from. Because often the first time we know we've got osteoporosis is when we've already got it. And it's about knowing what can we do before we get to that point. So sometimes there's that frustration around, I could have done more, or I was doing everything. I spoke to somebody yesterday. She's like, but I've been biking all my life. I do all this stuff. What do you mean I've now got osteoporosis? This isn't fair. So that's something that comes through a lot. And so when I talk about don't let fear stop you living your best life, this is just a side note, regardless of Phoenix Hipwear. This is just about don't let the fear of osteoporosis stop you embracing what this next chapter of your life is all about. And look, osteoporosis is a hard reality. We know that. But I think that sometimes when these situations happen, it's about how we reframe it, how we look at it. And now, if we haven't been strong and if we haven't been fit, now is the time that we do that, both physically and mentally. I know certainly my generation, you're probably much the same. We were taught to be skinny. We were not taught to be strong. And in that frustration of, well, why wasn't I taught to be strong? Now we get to be strong. Now we get to build muscle. I go to gym every day and I lift weights. I build muscle, and it took me a while to get my head around building muscle. My daughter at 17 comes with me to gym, and part of that is an awareness from a younger age now of being strong is actually a really good thing. So that's just a note that's really important to me, is about saying to people, yes, buy Phoenix Hipwear and keep your hips safe, but put that to the side. My message is always, how do we live this next chapter vibrantly, having adventures, doing activities, and the fear of falling, the fear of osteoporosis, the fear of fractures shouldn't stop us doing all those great things. So that's just a little bit of background. I want you to see here, this is actually me. This is how simple protecting yourself is. So we're talking about 2 to 3 seconds. We have comfortable garments, and you put a shield in. And it really is that simple. This is not a complicated, this isn't got side effects, this doesn't take 6 months before you start to see results. You put that shield into the pocket of the garment and you have instantly reduced your risk of a hip fracture, and you've instantly increased the likelihood that if you fall, that's all it is. It's a fall and you get back up. So we know that when hip protectors are worn at the time of a fall, there's around about a 69 to 80% reduction in the risk of hip fractures. So again, no guarantee, no 100%, but that simple action of putting a shield into your garments is going to help you, like Christine, have the fall. Yes, you might injure other parts, but you will be able to get back up and you'll be able to carry on doing what you do. So I'm just going to go through a little bit more detail about the actual product now. So let's have a look. We've got garments. So at this stage, as I said, I'm really focusing today on the active shorts, but we do have underwear that is just a 95% cotton underwear. It's a little bit of a fuller fit. It's a little bit of a higher waist. But this is the garment, which you can see on screen. I can hold it up, but to be honest, it's better for you to see it on screen. Can't see much here. It's a really soft, comfortable, athleisure specific fabric. So it breathes really well. It's moisture wicking. It's super, super comfortable. And on the side, it's got panels. So you can see on here pretty much where she's got her hands on the hips is the top of the panels. You can see over here is the panel where she slides the shields in. Now, as I said, you can wear these however you want. You can wear them on your own, on their own. You can wear them under leggings, over leggings, under hiking pants, pickleball shorts, pickleball skirts. I'm trying to think of all the ways people wear them. Pretty much however you do an activity, this just incorporates as the active short underneath that. So that's the short. This is going to go through the shield. So this is a little demonstration. Again, you'll see me talking, but on the video, because we wanted to find a way to show people what it means to be protected. Now, after this, I will go through the actual testing to show you how we tested this, because it's great that it looks good. It's great that it's comfortable. It's great that it feels nice, but it's got to work. So I will go through that. But what I wanted to show you first, because when I start talking about newtons of force in a fall and fracture thresholds, it starts to become a little meaningless. So I wanted to show a way that we could show this is protective, whatever's behind it is well protected. So hopefully this plays and you'll hear me talk.
Phoenix Hipwear shields are light, flexible, thin, and very, very comfortable. They sit over the vulnerable hip area, held in place in the pockets of specially designed underwear. In a fall, at the moment of impact, the shields will instantly provide a protective layer to absorb and disperse the impact energy and to help reduce the risk of a hip fracture. Now let's see a demonstration of just how protective these shields are. I'm going to drop this bowling ball onto this block. And first I'm going to have the shield in place for protection, and then I'm going to remove the shield and we'll see what happens. You can see what amazing protection the slim, lightweight, flexible shield provides.
Isn't that wonderful?
I heard a wow there. Yeah, it's pretty impressive. And again, we did it in one shot because I didn't want anybody to question that, oh, well, now I've put in a special brick and now I've put in a different brick. The protection is pretty incredible for the size, the weight, the thinness of the shield. And so that's a really nice way to just really demonstrate that. So what we've done is we focused on what are the aspects to make Phoenix Hipwear really easy to incorporate into everyday life. And I actually worked with a whole lot of women with osteoporosis. I asked for women who were concerned, who were active, who had a risk of fracture due to osteoporosis. And there's about 20 women, and I worked with them, gave them samples, gave them our original underwear, gave them our original shield, and they worked with me through this process because I really wanted it to be something that when I then launched it, I knew that it was right. I knew that people would love it. So it's super light, less than 2 ounces, the shield, really, really light. So you really barely notice it's in there. Once it's in, you don't feel that it's in. It's super thin. So if you can see how thin it is compared to, let's say, a mobile phone, it's thinner than a mobile phone, and it's certainly lighter than a mobile phone. So really low profile. It's flexible. So it's soft, and what happens is when you wear it, the material warms up and it becomes even softer. And that allows it to really mold around your hip area. And I don't know if you can see, but there's holes all the way through. So it's breathable, and that's part of that lattice structure. The shield is a really, really, really cool technology, and it's very new technology. It's 3D printing, but very different from what you might know as 3D printing. And so there's 2 components. There's the resin that this is made out of. On its own, if it was just a block of it, would be really protective. But it's liquid. This is in a computer, the design, and there's videos that I can send if anyone's interested, but it basically light and it shines through the design and it grows out of this resin. It's really, really cool. And it's a lattice structure. So now the structure is very protective. So now you've got these 2 components, material that's on its own is protective, structure on its own is protective. And now you've put them together, and that's why it can be breathable. It's why it can be flexible, why it can be thin, and why it can be so light, because it's got a technology that just is, way and above what else is out there, especially in the space with foam technologies. So I want to just run through quickly about the testing, because this is really important. And one of the things I want to highlight is there is no global standard for hip protectors. So in absence of a global standard, we did a variety of biomechanical tests, because I want to know that when I tell someone to put this on, it works. So we did a standard impact test. I'm going to show you a picture in a moment of what a standard impact test means, with dropping weights onto force plates and sensors and recording the force. And a straight impact test, it showed an 82% force reduction. That means the shield took 82%, and that was at an incredibly high impact. Then we did a guideline that's been recommended by the VA. So the veterans recommend hip protection, and they have a guideline saying that they work on 7,000 newtons of force in a fall, roughly, at about 3,500 newtons a hip will fracture, roughly, looking at about a 71-year-old woman falling standing height onto her hip. So there's all these kind of pieces that plug in. And so they say a shield should reduce the impact by about 50%. In that test, ours reduced it by 62%. So we well and truly passed that. Then we looked at what global standards did exist if there wasn't one specifically for hip protection for people with osteoporosis. And there was one called an EN 1621-1. So if I was selling hip protection for motorcycle protection, or if you were buying something for a motorcycle protective wearing, that would need to pass the EN 1621-1. There is a 2. 2 is for really high level, high speed impact, like professional motorcycling on, crazy courses and stuff. So this is what we mean by a test rig. I work really closely with Impact Lab, who are an engineering and impact protection company. They are very much involved in helmet protection, so they are experts in the space. We have a hemisphere, we have a sensor, we have a weight. It creates a certain amount of energy, in this case 50 joules. This is why we did the brick demonstration, because this starts to get, even for me, a little bit like, okay, it's just numbers. Drop it on the hip protector and we see what's what impact is absorbed by the shield. There is a very specific template in the EN 1621 that you have to follow. There's very specific places that you must impact it 3 times, and then you must record. And the pad is at a temperature of body heat, so it's not just it's designed to mimic if it's been worn. And these are the numbers basically that we have to get down to. So I'm going to just show you this because it makes a lot more sense. This green line here, you have to show that your shield doesn't go over that line in order to pass the EN 1621. That's what we were aiming for. This is the really high level test that we were not aiming for because it's at the extreme end of motorcycle protection. And you can see that we very nearly passed the EN 1621, level 2. Well and truly under on location C, B, and almost at the location, but definitely under for level 1. So that's a whole lot of numbers and engineering talk to say we have thoroughly tested this. If there are any engineers out there and you really want to know more, I've got a whole presentation that I can dig in and go through all the different tests and all the results and how it performed. But basically, what that means is our shield provides protection from impact. And in your case, it's the impact from a fall. So I'm going to stop talking for a couple of minutes, and I'm going to play a couple more videos of real users, real wearers, telling their story, why they got Phoenix, and how they find it. So start with this one.
Today I'm in Eastern Oregon hiking, but I live in Utah's Wasatch Mountains where I mountain bike and cross-country ski. And I always wear my Phoenix Hipwear shields. They protect me without getting in the way. And in fact, last year they saved my hip from a direct hit onto a boulder in the Utah desert. I'd be foolish to go out cross-country skiing or biking without those shields.
Hi, my name is Deb Muir. Don't let osteoporosis or osteopenia define you. You can do any of the activities that you used to do when you were younger with Phoenix Hipwear. Ever since I found these shorts that have 3D cushion in it to protect your hips, it has given me all the confidence I need to ride my bike, to lift heavy weights, to do anything, walking, and anything that I used to hold myself back at that now I can do. Thank you.
I'm almost 74 years old and I have osteoporosis. While nobody plans to fall, it does happen. And when I tripped on my own shoelace, I decided some kind of extra protection would be a great idea. My favorite physical therapist recommended Phoenix Hipwear shields to me. The shields themselves are slim, comfortable, and conform to my body. Fortunately, my friends don't even notice I'm wearing them. I'm very active. I'm actually a gym rat. I wear the shields for all my activities: step aerobics, cycling, impact, balance workouts, and lots of others. The extra protection provided by the shields give me the confidence to remain active. In fact, because of the shields, I'm back at the gym 6 weeks after total hip replacement.
Okay, so that is really it from me. I encourage you to go to the website at phoenixhipsactive.com if you've got any questions. If you want to look, there's pictures, there's photos, there's information, there's a lot more detail. There's also on the contact page, there is a link. If you have more questions and you want a more personalized conversation with me, you can click on the link, opens a calendar, pick a day, pick a time, and it will set up either a phone call or a Zoom call where we can chat about your specific concern or your specific need. Also, just to let you know, and all, I'm sure Shelley put this all in the information that she gives you. I've set up a special code for OsteoBoston. So if you put OsteoB in the code, there's a box at checkout, then it gives you 10% off your order. So that's in there. If you forget the code, just let me know. And yeah, so that's me. But as I said, I am here for any questions that you might have. Now I'm
That's great. Wow. You know what? You answered so many questions for me through the presentation. I have to tell everybody that I have gotten 2 of these already. This is the flexible hip protector. And I put them on the other day, and I have to tell you that my daughter is so excited because she had bought me underwear, but not
right.
yours, and it was not very comfortable. And I had, I thought, oh, I don't think I can do this. It felt very plasticky.
Yeah.
And I put on your shorts. I have
Good.
2 things here. One is a pair of shorts that I really like these 2. And the other one is the ones I saw the women in the bicycle wearing.
Yep.
They look like shorts too, but they're
Yeah.
really like
They're more the athletic ones. Yeah.
yes. And I think that these are the ones I'll end up wearing, but I'd like to wear, I might even wear these too. I have to try them both a little longer.
Yeah.
But I have to tell you, putting these shields in was like a game changer because they bend. So they bend and they conform to your hip. And it was so comfortable compared to those things that I had put on before. Because I didn't want to tell my daughter because she went out and bought these things for me. But like, this is so much more comfortable. And my daughter will be
Yeah.
thrilled because she knows now that I haven't been wearing them because I've been skiing with her. But
I'm so glad to hear that. That's yeah, I feel like I paid you to do a little ad there for me, but no, yeah, look, your response is the response that I get all the time.
yeah.
Especially if someone's got either an idea of what hip protection is, or if they've tried other hip protection because they've tried to do the right thing. And look, my own I call them my ladies who help me to keep trying the different iterations. The one of the videos, the woman in Utah who had the bad fall, she was one of my early ones, and I sent her the original, the old style shields, which were foam and thick. And she said, I can't. I know I need to, but I can't wear them. I'm just not going to mountain bike. I just won't do it because I can't wear them. I was like, okay, just be patient. The new ones are coming. And when I sent her these, she was like, the same response, like, oh my gosh, these are so comfortable. And so now she wears them. And then she emailed me soon after she had them, said, oh, I decided to go out mountain biking, had a big fall, had bruises all down my leg, actually had a bruise around the sort of shape of the shield. But no hip fracture. And I was like, okay, well, be careful. So yes, that response is what I get from people, and I'm so glad to hear that because I know that you have been concerned with hiking and skiing. So
Yeah, I
come
definitely.
on.
And I did have a pelvic fracture a few years back from a bad fall, and I wish I'd known about these. That definitely was definitely something I'm going to start doing. But I wanted to get other people's questions. In fact, one of the
Yes.
questions I thought was very interesting. Someone asked if they were to want to put this in. I know you have these 2 things as exercise options, but then you also mentioned the regular underwear, correct,
Yeah,
Natasha?
correct.
It now, can they buy the underwear, um, a lot of those because you
Yeah.
need to because you're going to have to wear if you wanted to wear it daily, right? You wouldn't want to buy
Yeah.
one set of these for every underwear. Like, how does that work out?
Okay.
Is it very
Yeah.
expensive?
Really. Yeah. No. Really good question. So one set of shields, we sell them as a set of shields, so it's 2 shields, one for each hip. So it's easy to think of. Comes as a set. That set of shields, you only need the one. Now, I have had some other people buy more than one set, but you don't need more than one set. They work in all the different styles. So what I sent you was a pair of the full fit underwear. So they're the ones that are a longer leg, higher waist, they're more cotton. Yep. So a lot of women who want to wear them as an everyday item, or who want something that's just a little bit fuller fitting, will do those underwear. We also have a women's style, which is all on our website. It's a little bit more like a brief. It's still full, because it's got to sit low enough on the leg to get the shield in the right place. So then you can just buy, what I say to people, start with, we have a hipwear set. So you'd get, let's say, your pair of shorts and your set of shields. Start with that, and then you can just buy additional garments whenever you want. So you want an underwear as well, buy the underwear. You want to buy another 5 pairs of underwear because you're wearing them every day, you just buy the 5 pairs of underwear. And look, one of the questions I do get, which I don't know if it's in the question, but do we have anything other than the 2 styles of underwear and the active shorts? Not yet. Special bike shorts with built-in chamois and stuff, wide leg yoga pants, long leggings, 3/4 leggings, purple leggings, pink leggings, green leggings. All that, yes, but not yet. So right now we had to start with something that was going to work across every kind of use and that people could use regardless of what they wore over top or underneath. And so that's why this is so versatile. But once you've got this, what I will be doing down the track, hopefully next year early, we'll be sending out emails to all my customers and anyone who's on my newsletter list and saying, right, what do you want next? Do you want a long legging? Do you want a 3/4 legging? Do you want a pink legging? Do you want pink shorts? And then we will develop a new style based on what most people need and want. And so I will be getting all my people very much involved in the process. So at the moment,
great.
active shorts, these can just be worn as kind of underwear. You can wear your underwear underneath and then wear these over top. Or wear your underwear underneath of the normal underwear, the hip protector underwear. And that way you don't need as many pairs.
That's a good idea.
That's what some people do. And so there is all that versatility. It's really about to start with, you just need 1 pair and 1 set. That's start with.
That sounds great. And someone asked, do the shields come in different sizes? And no, I don't think so.
No, the garments come in different sizes, and that changes where the shield sits. So it's always going to sit in the right place over whether you're tall or short or. And the panel on the side of the shorts, which you would have seen, is you can move the shield up and down, and then it will stay in place. So depending, for some people who are a little bit shorter, they can have the shield, further down, or so that.
Yeah.
Basically, if you go to my website and when you buy it, there is a link that says how to put the shields in, because you basically fold it like a taco, slide it in, and then position it. It shows you exactly how to do it. So, yeah. So
I liked that. That was quite helpful. I did watch that video.
Oh, you watched the video? Yeah. It's a really helpful video.
Great. And then the other thing someone asked is, would the shields protect you even if you fell on your back? Probably somewhat, right? I mean, it still goes on the back a little bit.
Well, it's really it's designed, because I have had people ask me, have we got protection for the coccyx if they fall backwards? So the answer again is we could do that down the track, but we don't do it now. It's really designed for that sideways fall onto your greater trochanter. That is the part that causes the most problems with regards to a fracture.
Excellent. Can I ask you how you got started in this? Like because, it's so interesting to me. Like, did you yourself have issues that?
No, look, it's a really interesting, well, I wonder how interesting it is. Often people ask me all the time. To be perfectly honest, when I started, I was a young mother, and I was looking for, I had a lot of background, and way back in my past, I was a teacher, primary school teacher. So I've had a strange pathway to here.
What kind of teacher?
a primary school, so little kids.
Sure.
Lived in London for a while teaching. I've always loved travel, so I lived in London, taught in some inner London schools, which was fun. And I met with a woman who was in the academic space, and she had been looking at fractures in senior living and the rate of fractures that are occurring in the more frail and senior living. And she was, horrified, obviously, because the number was high. And so her second part was, well, what can we do to protect them? And she looked around at what was out there. This is back many, many, many years ago, and everything was just these giant foam, thick or very hard shields. So working with the university, she developed a version which was better, but not great. She then was moving back into the academic space, and I was like, hey, yeah, that's a little small thing I could do. I could stay at home with my kids and not have to leave my kids. Little did I know what I was embarking on, because suddenly it became, that was New Zealand, suddenly it became this global kind of craziness. And so, look, that's where I started, and I was much younger. My parents were younger, and off I went, and then kept reading that nobody would wear hip protection. They didn't work, and I was like, oh, that's a slight problem. I've got a hip protector company. And what I dug into was that not that they didn't work, but the people wouldn't wear them because they were either bulky or uncomfortable or hard. So I, being young and naive, said to myself, well, I could just make something better. And I had no idea what that meant. And so I thought, well, let me take them apart and think about two parts, underwear, shield. And I worked with underwear designers, and I just made better underwear for old people. Just better underwear. It was more comfortable. It fit better fabrics. So I was like, okay, that's done. Now the hard part, the shields. And look, that basically led me on a journey for years. And I met a US company who was in sports, because I thought, well, hey, where is their money? Where is their technology development? It's all in sports. So I looked at sports and said, what are they doing for protection? Because they all need protection. They protect their heads, they protect their bodies. What are they doing? And there was a small company in the US who had developed a material that was still foam. So it's not as good as this, but it was better than what we had. And I essentially hopped on a plane and flew there and told them I was going to create a global hip protector company, and they should let me use the material. Again, the joy of being naive and young. And so that started the whole, there's new ways of doing this, and there's a whole US space. So spent a lot of time in the US. So my whole, I don't have to leave my kids suddenly became me going up to the US all the time. They got to go on some holidays, so they never complained. And then everything was going so well that we were scaling, and I moved to the US in 2018, got a O1 visa for being top in the world at what I do. Small market, so it's easy to be top in hip protection. Nobody else is doing it. Moved to Dallas and loved it, and everything was fantastic. Decided to extend the visa and stay, and my kids were at school and they had plans for college, and everything was great. And then March 2020, we all know what happened there, and my visa was coming to an end, and we were getting a new one. And we essentially had 48 hours to leave the country. We had to leave everything behind. At that stage, we were only doing senior living. They closed their doors because they needed to keep their people alive from COVID, not hip fractures. Business shut overnight. I was stuck back in New Zealand. The business collapsed. We had to move in with my parents, who by this stage, my mum was a falls risk, wearing my product every day, and my dad had had a stroke. And so he was in a wheelchair and was now falling. So suddenly this was becoming very real. And so, and then Phoenix. So I didn't live in Phoenix, but Phoenix is all about rising again. So yeah, hence the name. So
Sure.
for my people who wear it, it's about rising again. It's about getting back up. Don't let the fall be the thing that keeps you down. So it's all about just, rising. And for me, for my business, it was rising again. Like, do I give up or get a bit emotional when I talk about this part of the story? So yeah, so then we launched this again in 2022, went back to our senior living customers in the US and said, hey, I know we haven't had a product for a while, and they love it. And so we, from there, moved into the active. So it's been a
That's
journey.
great. That's wonderful. That's really wonderful. Was there any motivation for the recent change that you partnered with
Yeah.
Impact Labs and
Yeah. So when after COVID and my partners who I'd been working with pre-Phoenix could no longer provide the shield. So we were literally down to ground zero. There was nothing we could do. So I had worked with Impact Labs before, just on some side development. We'd been talking about new shields. And so I went back to them and said, okay, we're starting again. What can we do? And so they helped me develop my first Phoenix pre the shield. It was foam and it was great. But after and so we launched it. Our senior living customers loved it because it was better than anything else out there. But it wasn't what I'd always seen in my head. It wasn't my vision. But the technology didn't exist of what in my head. I used to have this vision in my head, right? So I knew what the shield looked like and what it was going to perform like. It just didn't exist in the world. And so when I started getting active women coming to me saying, hey, I got osteoporosis, I want to wear this, I'd say to them, okay, I'll sell it to you, but you're not going to like it. And they'd say, okay. I'd say, well, you're not, because it's just not right yet. And the technology doesn't exist. So they'd buy it and they'd say, yeah, I don't really like it. And I'm like, yeah, so that's what I said. So I went back to Impact Labs and said, I know we just launched our new shield, but there's got to be new technologies. Let's look again. Let's look what's out there. And we met this company, Carbon, who are just amazing. And they had just launched this new technology, and it's been used by like Adidas and Puma and different really cool brands. And I was like, that's it. This is it. And so because it's 3D printing and because it's all computer generated, we were able to go through a really, this is version, I think, number 16. So just iterate, try different thicknesses, try different softnesses, try different versions to see what was going to be the best, and gave it to people to try, got feedback, tried again. So that's how we got to Phoenix now, was basically the technology finally was created in the world to work for people who needed it.
I love it. And it's so thin. I was surprised by that too, compared to the thing I had before. And flexible. My daughter always says to me, why can't you just put armor all over you?
Yeah.
I thought,
I have
that
people
would
ask
be
me, can I make
awful
a
if you
whole
fall.
suit? But I look at my mum sometimes and my dad, and I'm like, could I just like head to toe coverage?
Like
then
bubble
they can
wrap
go.
or something. Yeah.
I know. I wish you could. I
But
hear you.
it's quite good, and I have to say I can't wait to try it out with some activity.
Great.
Just been a little busy this week, but I wonder if, let me just take a peek and see if there's any other questions. This is there an expiration for the
Oh,
shield?
no. Keep hitting it, keep falling, no matter how many times. So some foam hip protectors out there you have to replace after every fall. Anyone who falls regularly knows that falling doesn't happen once a year. So no, it just keeps working. It works. You get up, it works again. So you don't have to replace it. It's not going to wear out. It's not going to dissolve.
It's not going to disintegrate.
No.
What recommendations do you have on sizes? Like, is it true to, how would you know? I forget.
Okay, so on our website, on our website is how to measure. There's a little, there's a video, and there's also just a little graph. You measure exactly around the widest part of your hips, and that corresponds to a size. If you are at the top end, go up. Unless I have some people who say, oh, I like to wear my stuff really, really, really tight, and they're going to wear it under tight leggings. Well, then go in the size you fit. If you're going to wear underwear underneath it, just go up a size. If you really don't know and you're confused, thanks, somebody just, Osteoporosis Foundation in New Mexico just dropped in there how to measure. Thank you. And so depending, just do the measurement. If you're not sure, drop me an email. I get people emailing all the time, and we just ask them a few questions and then say, try this size. But as you would have seen, Shelley, if you get it and it doesn't fit, you just email me and we do a swap. We swap you out. Sometimes people's body shape isn't always exactly perfect according to the measurements. And so we're flexible with that.
Is someone asked, is there a number, a DEXA scan number that you would, if you would recommend somebody that has, -2
No,
or something like that?
no. So what we say is if you have got a bone density concern, it might be that you've got a diagnosis of osteopenia. Then this is just that little bit extra protection. If you've got a diagnosis of osteoporosis, regardless of your numbers, then I would say then this is something that you want to use. So we don't really get into specific individual. It's just if you are concerned that if you fall, your hip bones are at risk, this is when to do it.
That's wonderful. Well, wow, I am wowed. I have to say thank you so much, Natasha.
Oh, thank you.
Really
Thank you.
appreciate this, and I'm excited about being able to introduce this to our group. So
Fantastic.
thank you.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Well, I will let you go now, and you can all talk about me behind my back.
I'm sure that we have only good things to say. This was very interesting. And
well, fantastic.
really,
Look, I just want to say I really appreciate, because my big now that I've got my perfect product, my mission is to get out there and tell as many people as possible. And so having people like you who are talking to and supporting people with osteoporosis, it just gives me such a great vehicle to share the message. So if anybody else wants me to talk to them or share anything, I'm always available to have a chat.
Thank you. And can we share your we have your website, and they can contact you through that.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's 2 websites, and you kind of get to so phoenixhipsactive.com is our specific active product. If you just go to phoenixhips.com, the first picture is, are you active and just need this occasionally? If you click on that, it takes you to Phoenix Hips Active. But phoenixhips.com is where, say, a senior living group might go through, because it's got the more senior living focused information and so forth. So phoenixhipsactive.com is the best place to go as a starting. It's got all the underwear and the active and all the information and statistics, and the contact page to set up a time if you need more information.
That's really helpful. I think, this group is very versed in, Oniro and exercising and all the things you mentioned before. And of course, we embrace it all on this channel. If people
look, I've been part of the corporate advisory board for I keep going to call them National Osteoporosis Foundation since about 2014. With Claire Gill, I met many years back, and so I love all the work that the groups like Osteoporosis Foundation are doing. I love the different PTs and educators. There's so many now who are just really clearly focused on osteoporosis, and especially on the woman. I see there's Charlie there.
Melinda Beck.
So recognizing that this is an unmet need that has been overlooked for a long time, and now there's a lot more talk around it, which is fantastic.
So much so. Just was in the gym today with someone who looks like she's in her 40s, quite an athlete. And she was a professional swimmer, she told me, and she has osteopenia. And so, it's just unfortunate, but it affects so many of us, and sometimes at a very young age. So it's great you're doing this with the active short and everything.
Look, I always say we're one more tool in the toolbox. It's medications if you know, if your doctor has recommended. It's your nutrition, look at what you're eating. It's your exercise, it's your strength program, your balance training, your falls prevention, and add this in as your extra. It's like putting your bike helmet on when you go out biking. It's just that little bit added extra. It's not this but nothing else. It's all the things. And I'm really about being holistic and saying how do we do everything to make ourselves strong for this next chapter.
Why not? Let's do it
Yeah.
all, right?
Yeah,
And then,
terrific.
honestly, this is a great addition to
Fantastic.
it. Thank you for your time,
Oh,
Natasha.
look, thank you. I will jump off.
You
I know
are.
you've got lots of other things to talk about. So yeah, hey, look, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody. I really thoroughly enjoyed meeting you all. Well, not that I met you all, but talking to you all. Please do contact me if you, I love chatting to people about hip protection. So any questions, reach out.
I'm sure we will. Thanks again, Natasha.
Thanks. Bye.
Have a great night.
You too. Bye.
Thank you. Okay, well, thank you for getting on. You know, our group will stay on, but if you were in our YouTube audience, I just want to thank you for getting on tonight, and you're welcome to use the same discount code if you like. So anyway, thanks everyone.